Checking the audio.
Because I'm muted. That's why.
Yes, perfect. Okay.
Checking
Just
the
making
audio.
sure. Hold on, guys. Hello. All right. Great. Hi, Yvonne. Hi, Princess. Yes, I muted myself. The lighting is weird. I was trying to get it set up properly, but for some very bizarre reason, it's not wanting to do that. So this is just what our lighting is going to be today, and we're going to go with it. Welcome, everyone. I probably should have sent another email, but it's fine. People can join some drinking orange juice because that's what I felt like my body wanted. Orange juice. All right. Very excited about this conversation. I am going to send an email. I'm sorry that I didn't do this in advance, and I probably should have. Just let me see, live chat, make sure that we're all there. I'm just making sure everything is okay. Look, you know what? We're not going to send an email. People, if they're here, they're here. If they're not here, they're not here. And that's perfectly fine because we're going to have a great time. And no matter what, we're going to talk about aligned offers today. And yesterday I was really thinking through, because yesterday was 11/11. And so I was really thinking through just alignment. And it's something that obviously I think about quite often when I work with clients, because I always want to make sure that the things that they're creating, I want to make sure I can see the chat, that the things that they're creating are aligned to what they're called to create. Like there's no point in creating something that isn't what we're actually supposed to be doing. And a lot of people, especially in this business, like we see everyone doing a whole bunch of different things and we're like, oh, I can do that and I can do it, I can do that. And that's perfectly fine. You may very well be able to do those things, but if it's not what your calling is, you're not going to get the same results as somebody else. And I think that's what's very, very important here, is recognizing that part. So let's get into it. Hopefully we don't hit on too many nerves on the conversation of alignment mattering, because it really is more than consistency, right? It's more than just showing up. It's more than posting every day. That's important. Don't get me wrong. It is important. But it's more than just the strategy of that. It really is that the things that you're creating in how you're showing up look the way they need to look, because you can do the right thing at the wrong time. I mean, you absolutely can do that. You can do the right thing at the wrong time. You can do the wrong thing at the right time in many different permutations. You can even copy something that someone else has done and it's worked perfectly for them, but it isn't working for you. And you begin to wonder why it's falling flat. And that's because, maybe God never signed off on that particular thing. Like God honors order, not imitation. Right? That's why some people can do less and see more fruit, while others are burning themselves out and see nothing, because consistency is great, but alignment is what actually is going to open the doors of favor in your way. And alignment, it's showing up is great, but I really want to make sure that we hit the nail on the head for that. And your mantle, so if you've taken the mantle assessment, your mantle is really what begins to move you, or it should be the thing that is moving you in that direction, not your mood, not the things that you're afraid of, not the doubts and fears, not what everyone else is doing in your industry or in your niche. Like the moment that you begin to drift away from the mantle of your calling, you'll start to find yourself frustrated, and you'll start to find that things are not working as well as you would like for them to work. Things are going to feel heavier. Your content isn't going to hit as much. Your offers aren't selling. You start to second guess yourself along the way. You start wondering, is this even what I'm supposed to be doing? And that's what a lot of people, I find, that's where a lot of people are at right now, is that they're starting to wonder if this is actually what they should be doing. And I, as a coach, like in the conversations that I get to have, I'm always like, I mean, you can reevaluate. You can ask, like, God, is this the thing that I'm supposed to do? Usually the answer is yes. It's not the sort of like the calling that needs to come into question, but it's often like what we're doing with the calling, like how that calling is manifesting in life and in business. And it's not that people are failing at it, they're just misaligned. They're creating offers that have nothing to do with what they're called, or I don't want to say nothing to do. They're creating offers that feel safe. They're creating offers that other people have done, and they're trying to revamp it to make it work for them. But it doesn't work that way, because you're not using your divine intelligence, or people are using AI to be like, hey, this is my industry, these are my people, what should I be creating? And AI is going to give you things, because AI is scouring the entire internet to say what exists out there in the world. Oh, well, in this industry, all the people who are in leadership, this is what they're teaching. All the people who are in life coaching, this is what they're teaching. And so it's going to give you sort of a bell curve of what exists inside of your industry, but it's not going to speak to you at the level of divine intelligence that really is necessary for you to be truly aligned. You can create every single thing that ChatGPT gives you, but if that's not what you're called to create, it's not going to work. It might work a little bit. It might be like, oh, this is a fun little course to create, or a fun little training to do. But if God did not drop it in your spirit himself, we can't claim that divine intelligence is speaking to you. And we also can't claim alignment. We're claiming busy, we're claiming work, we're claiming showing up even, but we can't really claim alignment. And so hopefully moving forward, the people who are going to be the people who are the most aligned are going to make the most money. That's always just how it's been, because they are operating according to their calling. If you look in the history of, go back, right? Like I watched a very short snippet of the Madam CJ Walker movie. And the Madam CJ Walker movie, she was very much solving a problem, and it felt very specific to her calling to do. Like she wasn't like, oh, somebody else did it, let me do that too. Or, oh, it felt very specific to what she was meant to do in this world. And as we know, she is the first Black woman millionaire, self-made millionaire to ever have existed, because she allowed for the divinity of who she was called to be as a creator to create the thing that was very aligned with her soul, her calling, her destiny, and all of that stuff. And everything combined is going to manifest into something very, very great. But if you're trying to just do what ChatGPT tells you, and I'm not against ChatGPT, I use AI all the time. I use it for building funnels. I use it for building landing pages. I use it when it comes to being sort of like an administrative assistant, keeping notes, doing research. I use it for many things. I just don't use it to give me ideas, because I don't want to rely on artificial intelligence who is scouring what everything exists, and every single person who is doing what I'm doing on the internet, and then giving me sort of like an average of what sounds good. I'm always, always, always making sure, I'm in the book. I'm writing stuff down inside of my journal. I'm paying attention to where the spirit is leading. And that's not a flex. That is how my business began. And so the success of my business started there. It would be stupid of me to try to do something else, because that's not how God and I have typically operated. All right. So talking through alignment, what does alignment actually mean? Like the definition of alignment is this intersectionality between divine timing, your identity, and marketplace strategy. It is divine timing, your identity, and then marketplace strategy. And I'm saying it's all three of those things. It has to be, because you can't let's take a look at just divine timing, right? You can't do what you're called to do right now 15 years from now, because 15 years from now is going to be a completely different market. It's going to be a completely different you're going to have new ideas. It's a new audience. You're going to know more. So divine timing plays a role in that, like knowing when to move. If God is giving you ideas now, the time for that idea is now, within reason. Obviously, if he tells you very specifically, we're working towards this. This is going to take 7 years, whatever the case is, then yeah. But if he's like, you need to create a course about blank, you need to have a conference about blank, you need to do a webinar about blank. That's like, those are not random suggestions. Those are divine downloads that he is very generous in giving us, because ideas are a dime a dozen. Like really, ideas are. It's really the execution of the idea that matters. And that's where people seem to struggle. But the divine timing of it all is understanding, like, God is saying, move on this right now, right? So that's divine timing. The second part of that equation is the mantle identity, knowing who you are and what your actual assignment is. Identity by itself, I mean, we can be like, oh, I'm a child of God. Oh, I'm loved. Like all of that is wonderful and it's great, but it is not leadership in your business, right? This is why the mantle assessment, if you haven't taken it, make sure you take it. If you haven't gotten the reports, make sure you get those, because they're very illuminating. But your mantle identity, like the calling on your life, if you are called to be a marketplace strategist, that's a different level of identity than somebody who is called to be, let's say, a prophet in the marketplace, right? Like those are market governance, market profiting, like prophet, like prophecy, not profit, but prophet. Right. So those are two very different mantle identities. And those two people will create or should be creating two very, very different containers when it comes to operating in their business. Somebody who is has a Joseph mantle is not going to create the same things that somebody with a David mantle is going to create, or somebody with a Deborah mantle, or somebody with an Elijah mantle, or somebody, with the Moses mantle. All of those different identities are different mantles for a reason. Even if you take a look at what's in the Bible, they didn't operate in the same way. They all had very, very different things that they were doing. I'm going to take a look at the chat. And the son of a gun has crazy things. Oh no, don't do that. Okay. Yeah, let me know if there's any questions or any comments that you want to put inside the chat. I'll make sure to be looking at it. But who you are called to be is going to be an indicator of what you are called to do, right? But you have to be very clear on the identity piece. What was I reading today? Sometimes I just get very, very bogged down with like what I'm studying at the moment. And I was in Leviticus today randomly, but there's a verse in Leviticus that really stood out to me. What was I reading? I'm all over the place. I was in Leviticus 18. And this says, I am the Lord. You must not do as they do in Egypt, where you used to live. You must not do as they do in the land of Canaan, where I am bringing you. And it really struck out to me. I started writing notes here on that and sticking it in. I haven't finished, but it really stuck out to me because the whole concept of like, don't do what everyone else is doing don't do what you used to do, because who that version of you is in the past. Don't do what everyone else is doing who's ahead of you, because that's not even who I've called you to be. There's a very specific thing that you are called to do. And this is what and I always talk about Egypt, desert, promised land. You guys know that. But in that desert season, it is the identity. It's learning the identity. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to take a moment, a day, 2 days, a weekend, 40 days, whatever, to figure out, okay, God, me and you, we're going to work this out. We're going to have some staff meetings and we are going to get very, very clear. You take the mantle assessment, you say, okay, you bring it to God. You say, all right, God, here's the mantle that you have given me. What does this mean? Like, what should I be creating from this posture? From the posture of a Joshua, what does that look like in my business? From the posture of an Esther, what does that mean in the marketplace, right? So it's that identity that you have to be very, very clear on, because if you're trying to build things that are outside of the mantle that you've been given, I don't want to claim struggle in your life, but you're not going to experience the fulfillment of what your destiny truly is. Okay, and the third thing, so the first thing was divine timing, second thing was mantle identity, third thing is going to be marketplace strategy, knowing how to execute. Because so many people have so many amazing ideas. I mean, we are lofty with it. We're thinking conferences and book series and courses and classes, and we're thinking so many different things, but the execution, right, is lacking. Knowing how to execute. Alignment doesn't mean you do nothing. Like, alignment doesn't mean like, okay, I know my mantle, I know what I'm called to create, let me sit here. It doesn't magically appear, right? It means that you have to find the right strategy that fits the mantle and your divine wiring, right? You can't build a Joshua blueprint when you have a Mary mindset, right? Or maybe you have a Mary mantle and you're trying to build the same way that a Deborah would. It doesn't work that way, right? You can't run an Esther assignment with Peter's armor. Like, you have to know sort of like, what is the mantle, and then what is the right strategy that fits that mantle. So sometimes you have to have a very honest conversation with yourself and say, where have I been busy doing what's worked for somebody else instead of what God has called me to do? And this is, the conversations that I've had, especially over this entire year, for sure, with my private clients, is taking a look at their mantles and making sure that the things that they're created are aligned. And sometimes they don't even see it. Like sometimes they can't see how it aligns. And so part of the work that, I get to do is go, well, oh, you have a David mantle. This makes so much sense because David is all about this. And here's the thing that you're creating. And here's why that aligns. And sometimes they bring things to me and I go, that doesn't make sense at all for any of your mantles. Like you are called to be a Hannah and you're out here, trying to be a Solomon, and it's not going to work. We have to go back to the drawing board and pray about what feels like it is in the realm of what you're called to do, right? So those are the things that I want to make sure that you're paying attention to in terms of what alignment means in your business, because it's costing you a great deal. Like if you're not aligned, it's the energy, like it's costing you energy, it's costing you money, it's costing you momentum. The wrong offer, like I said earlier, can make you question your calling. You're going to be like, God, I don't even know if this is the thing for me. Like when you're trying to build outside of alignment, if you aren't aligned, you end up circling in the same place. And you're like, why? I keep trying and I keep trying and I keep trying and nothing is working. Well, it's not that nothing is working. You're just building up evidence of what you should not be doing instead of evidence of what you should be doing, right? So instead of doing that, just get very clear on the front end so that we're not having to go back and forth trying to figure out what God actually, wants us to do. And that sometimes means that you have to pivot yourself. You have to pivot into alignment. And sometimes we get afraid of it because we find ourselves fearful that it feels like starting over. And I want to remind you that it's not actually starting over. Like you're not starting over. You have gained an incredible amount of knowledge where you are right now. There's a lot that's happening. You've learned a lot. You've met a lot of people. You've made a lot of connections. There's no starting over in that. It's just getting more and more aligned. And that's actually a good thing. Like over the last 10 years of my business, I said this the other day to somebody, I pivoted multiple times. Most people don't recognize the pivot because we do it with ease and we do it with grace, just like we do it in with many things. And it feels, almost seamless in the transition, but I've pivoted once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times in the last 10 years in terms of offerings, in terms of positioning, right? Because I've just gotten more and more clear about what the calling was. Now, in order to gain clarity, you do have to make a move. Like clarity does not come from sitting and writing things in your journal 1,000 times over and over again and affirming to yourself that you're a millionaire. That's not how clarity comes. Clarity comes by taking actual action, like moving in the moment, doing the thing that God called you to do. Because sometimes the thing that God calls you to do isn't the thing, but it is the thing that is going to lead to the thing. So when I first started, in the online world, we know that I started out as a YouTuber, as a vlogger, talking about, lip gloss and hair products. All right, we pivot and we change to now we are going to teach people video marketing strategy. That's a pivot. All right, from that pivot, we begin, that's already one pivot. From there, we go, all right, well, we're going to start Flourish Media. And that means that, I need to learn and talk through training at large for many social media platforms. That's another pivot. Then it's like, okay, well, it's not just that. It's like the whole back end systems and teaching people funnels and sales pages and what is actually required to build their entire business. That's a pivot. Teaching people that is a pivot. Okay, then from there, recognizing like, oh, it's not just enough to teach people the strategy of it all. I also have to make sure that people's mindsets are where they need to be. So now we're going to talk more about money mindset. That's a pivot, right? So we open up a new container and every pivot is a container, by the way. If you notice, like every single pivot that I've had in my business personally was a new container. It was YouTube videos to online courses, teaching video, to the Flourish Media Conference, to platform, to the Money Mindset membership, to different Bible studies and things, because it's not just mindset, but now we have to talk about it from a biblical perspective. And then we move from there and we talk about, it's not just understanding and reading the Bible. It's really like, how can I get people to understand their true destiny and the calling that is on their life? Oh, God gives me understanding the concept of what is a mantle. Well, I had to learn that for myself first. And then once I did that, it was like, oh, I wasn't just learning for me. I'm actually learning it so I can teach other people. That's another pivot. So you see multiple different pivots exist. And is there there wasn't always fear, I would say, with regards to it, but there's always this sense of like, all right, well, this is what we're doing now, but like, does that mean that I have to abandon everything that I've done? No, it's a compounded effect of success. Everything that I learned 10 years ago is still in play now. The fact that I'm sitting here talking to you on YouTube is because 15 years ago, I started a YouTube channel, right? So it's the compounded effect of things. The fact that I can teach classes and courses and webinars and things like that is because I made my very first one, 10 years ago. And so you have to understand that step every step forward isn't so much that God is trying to lead you outside of yourself. It's just trying to get you closer. It's like if you think of a funnel, even within yourself, like you are funneling yourself down to figure out the right positioning. Mantle identity has been everything. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Hi, Shanti. Or Shani. I'm sorry, Shani. I pronounced your name wrong. I'm so glad that you're here. Hi, Dr. Nikki. Okay. So let's now move into the requirements of alignment, because it's not just, fun to chit chat about it and what does it actually mean, but we have to talk about how alignment in and of itself, like getting aligned in and of itself, is a strategy. Like it's not an accident, it's a discipline. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the podcast host said something, gosh, I wish I would have written it down. It was something like, if you think that discipline is not a part of God's blessing, and I'm paraphrasing, but I think it's pretty, this is pretty verbatim to what he said. If you don't think that discipline is a part of God's blessing, then you're doing this all wrong, because it is the discipline that allows for the blessing to come 30, 60, and 100-fold. So if you are wanting the blessing of the Lord, then you are wanting to discipline yourself to make sure that you are in alignment with what is required to receive the blessing. So what is required? Number one, awareness. You cannot align with what you haven't identified yet. And I've said this multiple times, but ambition is predicated on exposure. You need to be exposed to something to know that it's something that you might actually want. So taking the mantle assessment and being exposed to yourself, knowing your spiritual blueprint DNA, right? That allows for you to label the gift as more than just a gift. It is a calling. It is a mantle, right? Gifts serve. Mantles govern. Mantles are authoritative. If you have been given a mantle, if you did when we did the move in your mantle challenge, and if you did the classes with me and we talked about the different territories and the different domains, you know what I'm talking. There are different territories and different domains that your mantle is called to govern. You need to know what territory that is, because if you are not aware, you're going to be trying to operate in territories that have nothing to do with you, that you have not been authorized to govern. You have not been authorized to partake in, and that's why it's not working. See, some people try to govern in areas that are not theirs because they don't know what the territory is. You have to know what territory you have been called to, and there's 7 different territories we went over in that class. If you didn't take that class, I would recommend that you take it, because it's going to be very illuminating in terms of understanding what the territories are. So that's your awareness. The second is this ability to be agile and to adjust. Sometimes, going back to the pivot, you got to be willing to let go of what is not working, because alignment requires you to self-prune. I don't even want to say self-prune. I think God prunes us as well, but you have to have the discipline to say, okay, I feel that God is calling me to let that go. In the study hall that I had before this training, one of my clients in that particular program is a psychologist by trade, licensed psychologist. And because of just life circumstances and where she is and the direction that she's going in, she just said today, I've been called to let go of my psychology license. That is pruning. And so I'm like, how are you feeling about that? Because for decades, that's what she has done. And now she is called to let that go. And could you imagine feeling like, I've done all of this work in this area, and now God's calling me to let it go? And so often we find identity in things that we have done and not things that we are, right? And she is a psychologist, sure, and she has practiced psychology, but it's so much more than that, because who she is and what she's called to do and the mantle that she carries is going to go far beyond just being a licensed psychologist, which is very important, but that's not like pruning that away is going to feel heavy if you put all of your eggs in that basket. And we're saying all of her eggs are not in that basket. And is it a difficult time to prune it? Yes, but you're going to have to let it go, and that's okay, right? So a question that you may want to ask yourself in this season is, where am I trying to force fruit, right? Because sometimes we try to force fruit in areas that are not ours. And just like I talk about the areas of governance and the territories that you're called to, are you trying to force fruit in territories that are not yours? Are you trying to force fruit in spaces that do not belong to you? Those have been assigned to others to govern, right? All of that is okay. Learning this, I would say about myself, and I've probably been learning it, I don't know, last like forever in my business, is there, like, while I can talk about many things, I'm not called to teach on everything. Like, I'm not called to, like, can I teach you how to get 100,000 followers on Instagram? Sure. Is that like, am I gonna be an Instagram coach? No, right? Not the area that I'm called to govern. Could I spend my entire business focusing on even just building funnels? Like, is it something I'm called to teach? Yes, because it's a part of sort of like the community that I work with and what they need to know. But could I position myself as the funnel specialist coach? Sure, but that's not my area to govern. And so I'm not going to spend a ton of time doing it if it's not the area that I'm called to. And so you have to recognize the area of your calling and where you are meant to be. And is that an area or a territory that you're supposed to be governing, right? All right, so the first one was awareness, the second was adjustment. The third one is going to be accountability, because alignment thrives in community. You need eyes. You need eyes that are not yours. You need eyes on your stuff. You need eyes on your ideas. You need eyes on your vision that is not just yours, because there's so many ups and downs to building what you're called to build. You are not always going to approach it with fresh eyes, with motivated eyes, with excited eyes, with obedient eyes. Like, you're not always going to do that. So you need a community of people or person, like you need mentorship, you need coaching, you need prophetic confirmation, I don't know, to keep you in position. It is unreasonable to request of yourself to do everything by yourself. That is an unreasonable request for anyone. You need to have boundaries to the things that you're called to. Actually, so I'm doing this study on whatever. I'm doing this study on just the earth, I guess, like cosmology. I'm always studying cosmology. And I'm always thinking through Genesis, but thinking through Genesis, and when God tells the earth, let the earth bring forth the trees, let the earth bring forth the fish, or the water bring forth the fish, whatever. Everything that God wanted existed inside of the earth already. And because we are created in his image, I'm studying this concept of, like, what does that mean for us? Like, to call forth, like, what does it mean for us to be able to call forth the exact same thing, right? And I had a point to this, and I think I just lost my point because somebody called me and distracted me. All right. So, I remember. So, because we have been called to govern the earth as mankind, and remember, mankind is called to govern the earth, and then individual people are called to govern specific territories. For example, let's just take a look at how the world works right now. The King of England does not govern America. Territories. Right? The North Korea has a dictator. That dictator does not legislate in South Korea. Territory, separate, right? So just, even though we are called to govern the earth as humans, we have specific territories that we're meant to have authority over. And earth as a whole loves to be subject to what we call it to do. I mean, Romans talks about that the earth is groaning, waiting for the sons of God to be revealed. It's like, when are you finally going to step into position? It's kind of like the language that Paul uses there. Because the earth left by itself, like, first of all, if you see my backyard, right, this is actually very convicting to me. Let me confess to you for a second. If you saw my backyard, I've never considered myself to be like a yardsy person. I don't like anything domestic. Let's be honest. I don't want to cook. I don't want to clean. I don't want to do laundry. I don't want to do nothing. I just want to sit here and make my little videos and live my life. Like, so my backyard looks a mess. It looks a hot mess. And for several weeks, I didn't do anything with it. Could I hire somebody to do it? Yes, absolutely. But I kept forgetting and then it kept raining. So people kept canceling. And so one morning I was like, I'm just going to get up and I'm going to go back there and I'm just going to cut the grass. And I don't have a big backyard, by the way. It's probably twice the size of this room, which is not very big. So it wasn't going to take me all day. It was literally going to take me like 30 minutes to do. So I grab my little grass cutter thing and I go out there and I cut it. And it's just all of these like weeds and the grass is growing and there's random vegetation. And because I live in South Florida, there's animals can live back there. And there have been times where I may have been on calls with you guys and you may have heard me say, oh, there's an iguana at my window because again, South Florida. So anyway, so I go back there and I'm cutting all of it and I'm having sort of this conversation with myself and with God about, the conviction that I feel that I am not governing this very well. And the earth is groaning. I'm like, my backyard is literally groaning, waiting for me to show up because left to its own vices, it's going to do whatever it wants. It's going to look the hottest of messes, right? Earth is meant to be subject to man and man is supposed to steward and supposed to manage. If man does not build parameters around vegetation, the vegetation just grows everywhere. I was actually looking at this plant here earlier because I watered it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this plant is growing so much. I need to cut it or figure out what to do with it because it's left to its own vices. This is going to take over. It's going to start growing all over the place, right? So my job of stewardship is to make sure that it doesn't do that. And so I need to make sure that I'm governing the things that I am called to govern appropriately. And man, we can't do that on our own. I don't know how to operate inside a backyard. So I need to ask people that I do know who are very good at that, just for a little bit of accountability to make sure that I know what I'm doing there. So the thing that you're called to govern, like earth, your territory, the area in life that is meant for you to have authority over, requires for you to operate at your highest and best level. You cannot operate at your highest and best level if you're trying to do everything by yourself and if you don't see your own gaps. You have to be able to see your own gaps, and that's what community is for. Hold on, I'm just looking at here to see what's here. Mantle assessments, okay, great. Have not thought about building my business. What, Dr. Nikki? That's exactly what you should be doing, building it according to what the mantle is. Okay, so those are the requirements. What was it? Accountability was the last one. It was awareness and it was adjustment, like the pruning part of it all. All right, now let's talk about the offers itself, because we've had a good conversation about alignment. I'm going to drink my orange juice, which is delicious, by the way. Let's talk about alignment of your offers, because an aligned offer is going to have several elements. This moves into the practicality of it all. Like we can talk about mantles, we can talk about all that stuff, but this is supposed to be about offers, and I want to make sure that you're creating aligned offers. So number one is that your offers, I guess this is just a reiteration, that the offers that you create should be matching the mantle of your calling in the territory of your assignment. Your assignment, by the way, the territory is made up of 3 different parts, which we don't have time to go over today. Like I said, it was in that class anyway. So if you take the class, it's made up of 3 different parts. It's not just like, oh, this is my niche. No. Territory is 3 different parts combined, and that gives you sort of like the territory where you have authority. So your mantle is the assignment. It is your spiritual blueprint. It decides how you carry your authority in this world, where your voice has weight. So your aligned offer is always going to reflect the problem or problems that you are called to solve in this world, not just the skills that you happen to have. Like I said, I could teach people how to, get their first 50,000 followers on Instagram. Sure, right? It's a skill that I have. I've done it already twice over. That's not the mantle of the calling, though. When an offer matches your mantle, it feels natural, powerful, and almost obvious, but there's also the supernatural element to it. I was reading this book, and the book quoted somebody else, and I can't remember who the book quoted, but it quoted somebody who called it normally supernatural, like supernatural stuff should feel very regular to you as a mantle person. Like you should be experiencing the supernatural on a very regular basis. It should just really be business as usual. When it does not feel that way, you are not aligned, and it's going to feel very confusing and very frustrating, right? So your offer has to match the mantle of your calling. That's number one. Number two, your offer has to solve a problem for your audience in the real world, like a real problem with a real audience, not a surface level problem, not a trendy problem. And I'm saying trendy because there's going to be a lot of trends, right? New platforms and new programs exist. If you guys know, I'm switching all of my content over to Go High Level. Let's use this as an example. Right now, because Go High Level is relatively new, it's relatively trendy. Now, I love the platform. I think it's great. It's cheaper than Kajabi. It also has just more than Kajabi. It has more than what Kajabi offers. And so I'm transitioning. I have a lot of clients who are transitioning to Go High Level as well. And, so I'm seeing a ton of different businesses pop up that are teaching people Go High Level, like, oh, we'll build your Go High Level funnel for you, or oh, here's a plug and play template for your funnels for Go High Level. This happened when Kajabi came on the scene. This happened when ClickFunnels came on the scene. So these are trendy problems, and I'm not knocking it. Like, these are people who are building businesses on this particular platform, on this particular program for now, because it is trendy. But that is not it's not indicative of a mantle, because I know that it's trendy. I know in 3 to 5 years, there's probably going to be another platform that shows up, and then there's going to be people trying to do it that way, right? Different strategies, for example, are also trendy in a way. So first, it's like, I can even look back at my business, Periscope. Periscope was the thing. I don't know if anybody's been around that long in business to recognize or to remember what Periscope was, but everyone was going live on Periscope and talking on Periscope. There were Periscope coaches, and now people are teaching people how to go on Periscope. And then Twitter dissolved Periscope, became X, and so Periscope is no more. Then people started going live on Facebook. Then people started going live on Instagram. Then LinkedIn got a live version. Okay, and then TikTok came on the scene, and then people are starting to do like short form content instead of live form content. And now you have TikTok coaches, and then you not only have TikTok coaches, you have Reels coaches, because so you like, these are different trends, and those are trendy issues. And I'm not saying you can't, fill some of the, like, I do this too. Like, I will fill in different parts of my year with different problems that I know that people solve, but it's not the overarching thing that I do, because that's not the calling. My calling is not to teach people social media. Social media is a tool that's used for my calling and for the people who I'm called to work with, but it's not the core thing. I don't just teach social media class after social media class after social media class, right? So the actual core issue that keeps your audience stuck, that's what you're wanting to build on. That's what your offer has to build on. People don't pay for inspiration or information. They're going to pay for transformation. And if you don't offer something that addresses the transformation that they want, it's not going to sell in the way that you want it to. Alignment happens when your assignment and their need overlaps, right? So your offer has to solve a real problem for your real audience. That's number 2. Number 3 is an aligned offer has to be positioned clearly. Positioning matters so much, and so many people get stuck on the positioning. Clarity is part of alignment. If people cannot repeat back what you do in 2 or 3 sentences, your offer is not ready. Confusion is going to kill conversions every single time, and a confused customer will not buy. A clear offer tells people these 3 things. Here's the result you're going to get. Here is the process I'm going to walk you through. Here is why I am the one who carries authority in this area. That's very important to the positioning conversation. If you cannot clearly state why you are the best person to walk them through this, none of it's going to matter. They know that it's a problem. They're going to find somebody else who is the authority. They're going to look for somebody who has better positioning than you. And when I say positioning, I'm not even saying skill set, right? Because they can find somebody who has better positioning, but not better experience, not better expertise, not better credentials, just somebody who has positioned themselves more clearly, right? So this is why the positioning conversation matters. When those three pieces lock themselves into place, your offer becomes undeniable. What is the result they're going to get? What's the process you take them through, and why you are the very best person? Why you are the authority? Did I cut myself? Looks like a paper cut. Sorry. Why you are the authority in that area to help them. It's very important. Sorry, I'm just going back to look at this. Okay, great. Thank you for that hashtag. Absolutely. All right. So element number 4. This is the fourth part of your aligned offer. Your offer has to be designed for your natural strengths and your natural capacity so that you don't burn out. This is to protect yourself. It's to protect them, because I don't want the people that are buying the offer to feel like they're getting something that they're not, but it's also to protect you, right? You have to make sure that it is aligned with who you are called to be in the way that you are called to be it, right? Don't build offers that require you to become someone that you are not. Don't pick a format that's going to drain you. Don't choose a delivery style that doesn't reflect like how you function best. An aligned offer matches your personality, it matches your energy, it matches your regular rhythms, it matches your strengths, it matches your capacity. It also matches what you like to do, right? Like when the structure of your offer fits the way that you are naturally wired, you're going to show up with so much more ease, so much more consistency, so much more enthusiasm, and so much more authority, because this is you. You are meant to do this. And here's what I mean. If you don't like talking to people, you know, if you don't like talking to people, don't do a whole bunch of in-person events. Like that's not how you're, or if you're an introvert, like I'm an introvert, right? I'm not doing a whole bunch of in-person events. Like, as a matter of fact, every time I say yes to an in-person event, I ask myself, why did I do this to myself? I always enjoy it. Like, please understand, like, no offense to anybody or anything, but because I always enjoy it. I always have a great time anytime I get to be in the room, but it's like the physical part of like going from my home to the event is a chore, because I always have to think through, okay, let's go out to the people, like go out and see the people. And I have to like get myself geared up for it because I'm introverted. So you are not going to see me hosting an event every quarter, like with myself, by myself, for myself. I just will not be doing that. Do I do things in partnership? Like, do we do things with Flourish Media? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we do that. But you're not going to see me hosting something by myself. I may do something once a year. And then if I do it, it's going to be a mastermind with like a small group of people that I like. By the way, it's not going to be a whole bunch of strangers. I'm not inviting a whole bunch of strangers to my home. I'm going to work with people that I like in a small contained space, because that works for me. That is a rhythm, that is a capacity, that is enjoyable for me. Small groups of my people is very enjoyable for me. Not to say that I don't do the big, large crowds, because you know I absolutely do. It's part of the work that I have to do here. I'm simply saying that it's not the bread and butter of how I run my business. Most of what I do is going to be digital. It's going to be online. I love this sort of format where I get to teach and train virtually like this, and we can dialogue back and forth. I love my group programs where I get to work in community with other people. I love my one-on-one calls. Like, those are things that naturally fit very well for me. I don't even do a ton of self-study courses, as you know. I don't do a ton of that because I actually like the interaction that I have like this. I may do like 1 or 2 self-study courses, or I might do something live and then it becomes like an on-demand course. I do that. But in terms of actual self-study courses, I think in 10 years, actual self-study courses, I think I've created one. And that was my first course, because I realized I didn't really like it that much. I mean, I liked it. I loved it. It's fine. But I prefer this interaction. I prefer this. So this is my natural rhythm. It's my natural strength. It's my natural capacity. I like holding space for people. It's very difficult. And here's the thing too. Here's how you know it's a strength. Everyone is not gifted. It's not a natural strength for everyone to be able to hold space virtually. like to be able to connect virtually with people. Some people who teach, they're very boring, they're monotone, they don't have the energy that's required. They're trying to read notes instead of just naturally delivering things. They want a script for everything so this is not everyone's natural gifting. Now I can gab on and on and on about anything, really. Like, it just exists in my brain. I can talk about anything. And so this format works very well for me, because if you just give me some bullet points, which I have here, the bullet points of what I'm talking about, I'm going, right? This is natural for me. It's not natural for everyone else. Some people love the self-study format because it puts them in a place where they can be more structured. They can have scripts and they can pre-record and they can delete it. If it doesn't work well, I don't mind stumbling over my words. I don't mind using filler words. I don't mind any of that stuff. But for some people, they want it to look a certain way, and so they prefer self-study. Some people prefer in-person to online, because again, the ability to hold energy in this kind of container is not something that everyone can do for extended periods of time. So, but they can do it very well on a stage, and they love that. It lights them up. They are extroverted, and they feel like they can connect with an audience in a room like nobody's business, right? So you have to know what your strengths and what your capacities are in how you're actually creating your containers. So putting all of this into one sentence, an aligned offer is an offer that matches your mantle, solves a real problem for a real audience. It is positioned clearly, and it's delivered in a way that honors your design. If anything that you're building right now is fighting you, look at those 4 elements. Usually you are going to find the misalignment very, very quickly, right? So think about that. Like before you even move into whatever, just ask yourself, which of those elements have you been ignoring? Have you been downplaying? Have you been skipping altogether? Because the answer to that question really is going to be the key to kind of like your next level and how you find alignment in that next level. All right. And so lastly, I want to talk through, hold on, I'm just looking at my notes, make sure I talked about everything. I think I did. All right, lastly, let's talk through how to actually get aligned. So we've talked about what the elements of an aligned offer is. Let's talk about how to get aligned. Step number 1, audit your current offers. Audit them, and get really honest. Look at everything that you have. What's selling right now? Which offers feel heavy? Which ones feel forced? Which ones confuse people? Which ones drain you? When you think about them, that's misalignment, right? So auditing your offers. If an offer drains you, but doesn't, if an offer drains you, but it doesn't multiply impact, it's out of alignment. There's nothing holy, there's nothing noble, there's nothing exciting about holding on to something that God wants you to release. Like some of you are carrying old assignments like they're trophies, like they're just badges of honor that you pinned to yourself, and you wonder why everything feels stuck. You're allowed to put something down. Let me free you from the thought of you need to hold on to everything you've ever created. You are allowed to put something down. You are allowed to shift, and your mantle and knowing the weight of your mantle should give you permission to move. Let me give you an example with myself. You guys know for many years I ran Platform. Platform was my favorite thing in life. I loved it. It was built off of research that I did with my dissertation, and I loved Platform so much. And it was like my one big thing that I would do throughout the year. And I would say that probably in 2020, God started telling me that we have to let it go. We have to let it go. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I feel like I love it so much. Like I love working with my clients in Platform. I love, what we learn and the work that we do, and everything is pretty much set. Sorry, I'm just turning my AC, the temperature down because I'm hot. I love the work that we get to do there. And I love, just how everything is all set up already, and I can adjust if I need to, but really I love it so much. And God was like, we're gonna have to start shifting. Now, the issue that I had is that I didn't know what we were actually shifting into, because this is years before I even began to study the concept of mantle and what that even looked like for me. And so I held on to Platform for 2 years after that. And then finally, in obedience, was like, okay, we're not going to do it. We're going to let it go. And then we're just going to see what God brings into my attention. Because what Platform was doing is it was I don't want to say it was blocking my creativity, but it took up a lot of time. Like if you're working with, 30 to 40, I think one year in platform, we had 72 people. Like if you're working with that many people at one time in a container, I just really didn't have the capacity in my brain to do any of the other courses and classes that I wanted to. So letting go of platform really allowed for me to get more clarity about what are the other elements that I've been wanting to teach, I've been wanting to train, I've been wanting to study, I've been wanting to develop and create in the world. And so it opened up my capacity to do all those things. And then from there, I still was like longing for, okay, but like, I don't want to, none of these things are things that I would do multiple times over, right? I've done many, many courses, many classes, many challenges, but none of them were like things that I wanted to do over and over and over again. And so I was sort of waiting for that, but I had to let it go. I had to let platform go in order for me to even get to this conversation with God. And then that's sort of like when he began to drop in the conversation of mantle. Now, remember, it was just for me because I was confused. I was like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing because it ain't platform. So what do you want me to do? So then I started to study mantles and life's purpose and more identity stuff because people wanted that from me anyway. And then, it took about 2.5 years of deep diving into that for God to really open the door for me to understand, oh, this is where we're going. And now we're here and I get a chance to talk about mantle and mantle identity and mantle over and over. And I can talk about it over and over and over again. I can talk about it at churches where I do trainings, at conferences where I speak, online where I make videos, with my clients in our one-on-one calls. I can talk about it all the time because it has given me so much joy. But it took a while for me to get there. And I had to let go of some things in order for me to even open up my mind to say, all right, this is what we're doing now, right? So keep that in mind as you are thinking through and just auditing what your current offers are. You may have to let some things go. Number 2, identify what are the actual markers of your mantle. Like this is also where clarity begins to take form. Look for repeated patterns in your life. What themes always come up? What problems are you always pulled towards solving? Where do people seek your voice? Where do you feel a burden that you just can't seem to, sweep under the rug long enough? Like your authority is going to live where your heart bleeds. Like your authority is going to live where, like, and this is, something that I have always, since childhood, I have always been so attached to the concept of destiny and life's purpose. And so even with platform, if you've done platform, even in platform, we talk so much about purpose and mindset because it was really getting you to, if you're called to be an entrepreneur and you're called to do this, then this is what you need to know, right? So when I look at the things that have been markers for me, it was always concepts of identity and purpose and really getting to know God more. Like it's, how can you get closer to God? Because the closer you are to God, the more you're going to be able to hear and understand what that destiny and purpose is. That has been since I was a child, since as far back as I can remember. So what are the things that are mantle markers for you where everything else just seems to make sense? The messaging makes sense. The offers begin to make sense. The content that you create, the social media, it all makes sense. You're not just throwing stuff out there because you're like, well, I got to post something, so let me just post this quick little quote. No, it's going to feel weighty. It's going to feel like it carries your authority. Like your entire business is going to start to feel clearer because you finally know and understand the territory that God has assigned to you. But that's looking at the different markers that exist. Number 3, refine your messaging. Goes back to the positioning conversation. Stop copying what other people are doing. Stop doing it because it worked for someone else and start speaking from a place of revelation and not repetition. You are not a parrot. You do not need to be repeating what someone else said. You need to get the revelation. You are too far into your journey. Like you are too mantled and too credentialed and too educated and too experienced to just be a copycat of somebody else. Trends are very loud. So it can seem like, oh, this is easy to do. It's trendy. Everyone's doing it. But it's not always truthful to you. It doesn't always live in the space of your own integrity. Templates are helpful. We love that. But they don't always come with the revelation that you've received for yourself. You have to strip away the noise sometimes and then just kind of like get back to what God is actually giving you to say and God's giving you to steward. People will respond to that. People will respond to the realness that comes with you showing up as the person that you're supposed to show up as with authority and not aesthetics, right? So when your message is sharp and simple and aligned with your mantle, you don't have to beg for attention. And we live in an attention economy. Like, this is an attention economy. We're all trying to get more attention on our digital platforms, on social media, with the content that we're creating, the emails that we're writing, because all of this stuff goes out to the masses, and it goes to where there's so much noise, right? But when you show up authentically, like, authenticity is going to cut through all of it. Trust me, it will. Your people will recognize you when you speak. Your people will recognize you when you speak. Not every person, not every people, but your people will. And so it's about just refining and refining and refining your message to position yourself with authority in the area that you are called to govern. Step number 4, rebuild what your offer stack is if you need to. So when you've looked at your offer stack, you see everything that is. When I talk about your offer stack, I'm talking about your free stuff. That includes your content, right? Your free stuff, your tripwires, your self-study courses, your group programs, your live events, your top tier offers. So that is what builds up an offer stack. So just repeating it again, if you're taking notes, it's the free stuff, tripwires, on-demand self-study courses, group programs, like live group programs, and events. I put those in the same category. And then your top tier offers. If you don't know what those are and you don't have them, reach out to me separately, because you need it. You need an offer stack, and you need an offer stack that matches your mantle. But email me if you don't have that yet. So from that place, you build with intention. An aligned business does not need 10 offers. It doesn't. It needs 2 or 3, that operate in different spaces. So you might have, this is a self-study course, this is the tripwire product, and then this is a group program, or this is a one-on-one offer, right? You don't need 25 courses that are existing in the world and people go to the library and they just choose like, could you have that over time? Absolutely. Like I do. Like if you go to the, but I've retired many of them, by the way. Like many of the offers that I've and this is part of me letting things go. And I think it was last year, I think was when I decided to retire like half of my catalog. They all exist for people who purchase them, but I don't sell them anymore because I had to let those things go. You just don't need everything. What is the transformation that you offer right now? And then do you have an offer stack that matches those transformations at different levels? This is looking at your client journey, and then figuring out what containers are going to match different areas on that journey. And then as you're creating them, does it reflect the authority that you have, right? The authority that you have to help people transform. And then are you known for that? Like, are you actually known for this thing? This matters a great deal. If you are mantled and if you are called into a mantled space of territory, people should know you as this. Oh, that is the mindset coach. Oh, that is the YouTube person. Oh, that's the live events coordinator, extreme, like that. Like that's, oh, that person, she's an amazing speaker. She always talks about destiny. Like, or that person, she's the neuroscience person. Like, people should know you in your industry for this. And then from there, you can add some optional layers, right? Smaller offers, intro products, support resources, but they have to serve the same mission, not distract from it. Everything that you build in alignment, right, should be pointing back to your assignment, whatever that assignment of transformation is and whatever that territory is that you're called to, right? So like I said, you don't need all these offers. God can give you one really good vision, and then you break it down into different ways that you can begin to teach it. You can teach it in a live program. You can teach it in a self-study course. You can offer it as a book. You can offer it as a workshop. Like, there's different ways that can be manifested, right? So before you create another product or create a bundle for Black Friday or the holiday special or whatever the case is, get aligned. Build the thing you are actually designed to build. And then watch how fast movement comes when God can finally agree with you in your business. If anybody has questions, put them in the chat, because we're just coming to our conclusion now. Let me get this, and then I'll read through any questions that come through. But I was listening to another like business coach talk about, he's not a business coach, he's a consultant. He buys companies and sells them. And he teaches other people, I guess, how to buy and sell companies. And he was talking about how, you know, he's learned how to move with like what God is asking him to do. Like, can I do this? Should I be doing this? Do you think I should? Okay, let's do it. Sometimes God says yes, and sometimes God says no. But it is really operating in step with the spirit, especially if you're in a space where you're not quite sure and you're still trying to learn what your mantle is and you're trying to have a grasp of the authority that you carry. Sometimes it's just a really, really good idea to get very, very basic and almost childlike with how you operate with God in, you know, what it is you're trying to create. So yes, so that's what I want to make sure that you are aware of. This was a lot longer than I intended for it to be, by the way. Let's talk about that, Dr. Nikki. Like, what does, because let's talk about that on our next call, in terms of what alignment looks like for a Solomon mantle, because Solomon is wisdom and money. It's wisdom, money, and I guess you can include legacy in there as well. So we'll take a look at what your offers are, and then we'll figure it out. But those are the things that Solomon is called to: wealth, money, legacy, and wisdom are those things. I've been trying to digest my mantle, and I'm not, yes, the mantle of Esther. Yes, it's a lot to digest. Absolutely. It's, you know, I did an intensive with a client not too long ago, and it took us 6 hours. She sat right here in this chair, and it took us 6 hours. We got the whiteboard out. Like, it took us 6 hours to, and I don't even think that was enough. Like, it's really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this stuff. And you know what's really funny? I was telling my friend this morning, but because there's so many things inside of my brain that God sort of has been revealing to me. Sometimes it's very frustrating, but I was making hot chocolate today and having a conversation with God. And I was like, you know, God, like, the interesting thing about all of this is that I can't really talk to anybody about it. Like, there's certain things that, you know, God is like gave revelation for, and it's not the time for me to talk about it. And he was like, well, Tracy, you know what? You can talk to me. And it was never, like, the vision is not a group project, like in the way that we think of group projects. Like, do I have coaches and mentors and pastors and people who are yes, absolutely. And I talk to them about it for sure. But the vision that you have and what you're called to do is not a group project. You are the one that is called to carry the mantle. You are the one that's meant to walk in the authority of the territory that you're given. You are the one that's called to govern in that area. So make sure that you know what that looks like, because it's very, very important. Oh, the whiteboard is very serious, as you know. Dr. Nikki called it the whiteboard of death. It's not the whiteboard of death, it's the whiteboard of destiny. It's the whiteboard of destiny. Okay, thank you so much for joining. How fun this was to chat about all of this. Like I said, this is a lot longer than I intended for it to be, but we had a really good conversation, and hopefully it helps you think through your offers, whether it's Black Friday, whether it's Christmas offers, whether it's whatever offers, you know, are coming up for you, or if it's something that you've been wanting to do, but you've been too afraid. You know, I had a conversation with a client this last week, and she's building another leg to her business. And she said, and she's been doing this since July. I've been working with her for years. That's like, I've been working for years. And she's been building this other leg since July. And she said, you know, I was too afraid to tell you, because she wasn't super clear on it yet either. But once she did, I was like, this makes total sense. You have this as a mantle. This makes sense. This matches, like, everything matched up. But sometimes, you know, you're afraid to launch something new because it is in fact so new. And what I'm saying is, and so even in that phone call that we had, we're both crying at this point. Like, which I cry on some calls, because we're both crying. Like, this revelation that God has given her for this new brilliant territory, and probably has always been the territory, but it just took us a while to get there. And I can't wait to even share it with everybody, because I'm like, I want it right now. Like, why does this not exist right now? Like, give it to me now. And it's just not ready yet. So it's really fun to watch people kind of come into the understanding of their mantle and then create the most aligned offer ever. I'm not saying it's always going to bring you to tears, but I will say that for many people that I've worked with, at least for my one-on-one clients, for many people, it's like when they finally get it and they finally hit the nail on the head, and they trust themselves like to govern in this area. There are usually many tears because it's like the thing that you've been afraid of doing is finally the thing that you're going to say yes to, and you're going to put all of your trust and all of your faith in the God who gave you the vision anyway. So, all right. Well, thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy your holiday season. Reach out to me if you're struggling with any of those things. There's obviously more work to do in a lot of these areas. This is not a time, let me tell you something. This is not a time for you to spend weeks and weeks and weeks on trying to figure out how this works. That is stupid. Like, and I'm not calling you stupid. I'm saying that is dumb because you don't have the luxury of time to wait, right? You are called to do what you are called to do right now. So don't don't just spin your wheels over and over and over again with no help. Like it's the beauty of what I get to do, but like, and there's just no reason to do it when the time is now. Like the days are evil. God, the Bible says the days are evil. The time is now. Like you are needed now. Your mantle has been revealed to you now because this is now the time where it needs to manifest. This is now the time where you need to step into it and govern in it. You see how you watch the news, you scroll on social media, you know what's happening in the world. They're crazy out here. They're crazy. And they need you to show up in the fullness of what you are called to do, because that is what you are here for. It is literally Acts 17. This is God determining where and when you are so that you can do what you are called to do. So reach out if there's anything that you need from me to get clear on these things, to build out aligned offers, to make sure that the marketplace receives your mantle in the way that God wants. And then we'll go from there. But otherwise, have a wonderful holiday season, and I will talk to you all very soon. Bye.